Chair recognizes Ms. Stansbury of New Mexico.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm excited to talk about grid modernization and transition here today because I happen to be one of those grid nerds like some of the others who are here in this hearing today. And, I think it's actually great to use this committee and other committees to talk about this important and revolutionary transition that's happening both to our economy as well as our infrastructure, because much of our grid was built over the last 100 years. It's coming to the end of its design life. We're bringing on all this new different sources of energy, and our planet is undergoing this massive transformation. And I'm particularly excited to talk about the huge investments that the Biden administration has made in this transition. In fact, the Biden administration, as has been said here in this hearing this morning, has made once-in-a-generation investments in our grid, in technology, in reshoring manufacturing, through the bills that we've been talking about and that we passed here in this body, the Congress before this. So that includes the Inflation Reduction Act, as we've been talking about, the Infrastructure Investment Act, as well as the CHIPS and Science Act. And this represents in total the largest single investment in the clean energy revolution, not only that the United States has ever made in America and our economy, but that any country ever in the history of the planet has made in any country. So it's really, I think, an exciting moment, but also a perilous and frightening moment, in part because we know climate change is real, it's happening. We already are seeing the warmest winter ever on record this winter, and the largest increase in temperature this last year across the country. And we know that this transition has to happen quickly, and that if we don't use public policy to incentivize that transition, we're going to end up in a really bad situation. So, in particular, I represent the state of New Mexico, and New Mexico is really at the forefront of this energy transition. We have 2 national laboratories which are at the forefront of research. We actually passed some of the most forward-leaning renewable portfolio standards in 2019, and when I was in the State House, I collaborated with our governor to literally write and pass bipartisan grid modernization legislation to address many of the issues that have been raised here today. But what we're seeing is that in states that have good policy, like New Mexico, they are really poised to take advantage of the massive investment that we're making through President Biden and Democratic investments in the clean energy revolution. So just this last year in New Mexico, we cut ribbon about 8 months ago on literally the largest wind farm in North America is in my district, and it will be providing electricity all across the West. We just cut ribbon on the largest wind turbine manufacturer for the actual turbines themselves in my district just a few months ago, made possible by the Inflation Reduction Act. We just cut ribbon in my district just a few months ago on the very first reshoring of solar arrays back to the United States from overseas since the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. And Intel Corporation is putting in its largest chip manufacturing expansion in the United States in my district. Now, if anyone has any question about whether or not these bills are helping to accelerate and turbocharge the clean energy revolution and address the issues that we're talking about here today, I can tell you unequivocally they are creating thousands of jobs in my district. They are helping modernize our grid. They are creating opportunity in communities that have long struggled with economic challenges, and it is transforming our energy economy across the West. And New Mexico is poised to do that because we had forward-thinking politicians who sat in seats like we're sitting right now to help pass laws to help this transition happen. So, Mr. Munkin, I do want to ask, we've heard a lot of sort of fear-mongering and scary stuff about the grid, but what can we do at the federal level to really accelerate the grid modernization and clean energy transition? What are the 3 main things that Congress can do?
I think first, thanks for the question. And I think first and foremost, being able to recognize the fact that this needs to be a holistic strategy that includes access to all of the technologies that are potentially available. I think a continued investment in the onshoring of production capabilities for essential components that we need as part of this transition is hugely important to the process to make sure that everything that we need to build this system is available to us. So that is certainly helpful. Economic stability and predictability is essential. We've seen an incredible amount of investment in response to the amount of money that's been made available by the federal government so that people have more predictability about the potential success of their investments. That's reflected in the $680 billion that has been invested in clean manufacturing, industrial capacity, and data centers in the United States since the passage of both of the pieces of legislation you described. And I think the last and possibly the most important component right now is to include transmission in the next round of legislation that's actively targeting how we really incentivize infrastructure investment in the country to make sure that all of those pieces fit together. We've addressed it from the technology standpoint, the consumer standpoint. Now we need to make sure we can make those two pieces meet.
Great, thank you.
Gentlelady's time has expired. Chair.